This is my daughter, Olivia. She was born 5 weeks early and couldn't breathe on her own. Machines were keeping her alive with the help of an entire NICU team. She was fighting for her life. She was so fragile that I had to wait 4 days to hold her. When I finally held her in my arms with her tiny hand wrapped around my finger, I looked into her eyes with tears welling up in mine, and I promised her that I would do anything to protect her. 2 years later, my son Caleb was born 9 weeks early. He was in critical condition. I held on to every fiber of hope for the entire 10 weeks in the NICU. He was 8 days old when he was finally stable enough to be held. As I cradled his fragile little body hooked to those same tubes and wires, I looked into his eyes and I made the same promise that I had made to his sister 2 years earlier. I would do anything to protect him. As much as I had always wanted to be a mom, I truly had no idea how fiercely I could love 2 little humans. My desire to have children started when I was very young. As I observed the world around me, both real and on TV, I quickly began to understand the rules of becoming a mom. The rules seemed fairly obvious, and I think you'll recognize them. I present to you the patriarchy's 5 steps to motherhood. Date a guy, one with good dad potential, preferably tall, dark, and handsome. Get engaged, down on one knee with a diamond ring, that's required. Rose petals, optional, but strongly recommended. Get married in a church, wearing a white gown, flocked by beautiful bridesmaids and handsome groomsmen. Buy a house in the suburbs, and then have a baby. Boom, motherhood. Those were the rules, and I was a rule follower. So I set out to find the future dad to my future children. The first guy that I considered for the role was my boyfriend, Marty. We always had so much fun together, and he was super cute. But that guy was always getting into fistfights. I mean, that's like questionable on the dad material aspect, so unfortunately, I had to break it off. And I mean, I suppose it was probably a good thing because we were only in the 2nd grade. But in all seriousness, I cannot recall a time during my dating life when I wasn't actively assessing my partners for their potential as the future dad in my perfect little patriarchal life story. During spring semester of my freshman year of college, I met a guy. He was hardworking and success-driven, assertive, smart, had a nice smile, and a quick wit. We started dating. He was my first serious boyfriend in college. He seemed to have good dad potential, and I liked his family and his friends. And then we dated for 3.5 very difficult years. In fact, during our first month of dating, I broke up with him. He had gone into a hot rage about me leaving my books on his kitchen table. So he hurled a heavy mug across the room at me while yelling obscenities and telling me what a piece of garbage I was. Naturally, I told him to never call me again, grabbed my things, and left. And then the cycle began. He called and he begged to see me. He apologized, but he said that if I hadn't left my books on the table, he never would have been so upset. And that is how every apology went from that day forward. I'm sorry, but if you hadn't, I wouldn't have. Being the high achiever that I am, I spent the next several years attempting to perfect every little thing he ever said that upset him. If you hadn't left your clothes on the bed, I wouldn't have yelled. Got it. Always put the clothes away. If you hadn't hit the snooze button, I wouldn't have stood over you screaming like a drill sergeant that you're a lazy piece of trash while my spit hit your sleeping face. Got it. No snooze button. I didn't internalize his insults right away, But here's the thing about bullies. They will eventually get into your psyche and dislodge every single positive thought you have ever had about yourself. He slowly dismantled my belief in myself and my trust in the people who were telling me that I was awesome. By the time he was graduating from college and I had another year to go, he asked me to marry him. I wish I could tell you that I said no, but I didn't. In fact, I enthusiastically said yes and started planning my dream wedding. And our wedding was a good time. And right after our wedding, we bought a house, and then I was like, it's time to have children, right? But when it came to children, he used my desire to have them as his ultimate source of control. So I modified the rules a little, and I got a dog. Remington was my first dog, and he was the best. He had so much personality. He was determined and strong-willed and very opinionated. I had no idea how much he was preparing me for raising a toddler. Once I had this fur child in my life, it did not take me long to realize that I was not, in fact, married to someone who was quality dad material. The first time I saw him emotionally break my dog was when Remington was in the backyard rolling around in something really stinky, like dogs do. I will spare you the traumatic details, but in that moment, I realized I could never have children with him. I knew I needed to leave to protect myself, Remington, and my future children from him. It took me longer than I care to admit, but with the love, encouragement, support of my family and friends, I broke the rules and I divorced him. I promptly changed my last name back to Wisner, and then I got right back on that patriarchal train. Ugh, Amy. Back to step one, date a guy, rush into a rebound marriage, get divorced again, date some really great guys, also make some severely questionable choices along the way. To avoid turning this into the Taylor Swift of TED Talks, I'll skip the details. But rest assured, I definitely got more dogs. Finally, after several decades of searching for the future dad to my future children, something truly remarkable happened. I questioned the rules. Why do I need a partner for this? Why have I never questioned these rules? Where did these rules even come from? It's the patriarchy. The archaic system of male domination over women, the one that tells us how to look and behave so we can get a man. Gross. My entire world shifted when I started asking why. That well-worn 5-step process for becoming a mom the right way suddenly became utterly meaningless. At 43 years old, I became a single mom by choice. That was and will forever be the best decision I have ever made. Rejecting the rules gave me the greatest gifts of my life, Olivia and Caleb. When people learn that I'm a single mom by choice, they ask a lot of questions, and I am beyond enthusiastic to share every single detail. Ask away. I love telling this story. It's the story of my 2 true loves of my life, my children. And whether I'm talking about my decision to become a single mom, or to stop coloring my gray hair, or to get divorced twice, or to leave a job I hated, I embrace every opportunity to encourage, support, and empower another person to always question the rules, to reject the rules that don't fit for them, to be vulnerable and be authentic, to be a rebel. But when I thought about sharing my rebel story on this stage, I was scared. I kept trying to academically explain why we all need to join forces to dismantle the patriarchy. Why was I so scared? Because I knew that if people actually watch this talk, I'm opening myself up to the internet trolls. The shame, judgment, criticism, name-calling, and gaslighting that is rampant online is frighteningly similar to what I experienced for 8.5 years with an abuser. And internet bullies? They don't even have to face you when they're hurling insults. They just cowardly sit behind a keyboard spewing hatred. I was afraid of those bullies. I was afraid of receiving their hateful messages. However, thanks to my beautiful support system of wisdom-hearted women and a few men, I was loved, supported, and encouraged to move through my fear and tell my story, to inspire others to question everything. You see, the patriarchy will tell you to get in your gender box and follow the rules. It'll convince you that if you don't conform, you're not worthy of love, and that you are to be bullied until you follow the rules. Girls, here are your rules. You must date, marry, and have babies with only boys. And in the service of men, you must be young, beautiful, virginal, submissive, quiet, nurturing, powerless, and opinionless. Be the caretakers of men and children and everyone around you. Perfect your body and your home and your kids and appear perfectly ageless. Your entire body should be hairless, except that on your head, of course, that should be voluptuous and blonde, or maybe brunette, but definitely not gray. Women who assert their power are called bitches. We're told to be thin, but not too thin. Be fit, but not too fit. And what's crazy is that the system has manipulated us to keep ourselves in check, to judge, criticize, and shame ourselves if we don't look young enough, pretty enough, thin enough, fit enough. I have plenty of personal examples, but most recently, when I learned that I was going to be giving a TED Talk, my reaction was, yes! Oh, I'm so nervous. Oh shit, I need to lose some weight. We look in the mirror and we focus on what needs to change, what needs to be perfected. We are doing the patriarchy's dirty work in our minds all the time. Boys and men, the patriarchy has rules for you too. To be a man, boys are told to man up, act like a man. Boys don't cry. Every message tells them that the worst thing they could be is a girl, because girls are weak. When boys and men don't follow the rules of the patriarchy, especially those who are attracted to men instead of women, they are shamed, mocked, bullied, physically threatened, beaten, and sometimes they're killed. When they get emotional, boys are told, "That's so gay," or "Dude, stop being such a chick." Boys and men who are feminine will always suffer the harshest judgment in a patriarchy. The artistic, emotional, and gentle-spirited ones, the passive, shy, and affectionate ones, the small, delicate, fragile ones. Feminine men threaten the entire system. A system of male domination cannot survive if its men don't act like men. But here's the thing. Even though men are in a position of power in the patriarchy, it has set them up for failure too. According to the World Health Organization, Western men are 3 to 4 times as likely to kill themselves as women. Why? Because seeking help is seen as a threat to masculinity. A world built on the belief that boys and men must be toxically masculine and that girls and women are inferior to men, that is not the world I want for my children. When I look at what's going on in society, I see too many parallels with my personal experience of emotional abuse. Shame, judgment, criticism, name-calling, gaslighting. Remember that promise I made to my babies? I would do anything to protect them. It is time for something to change, and I'm here to ask for your help. When I left my marriage, I did it with support and love and encouragement. I could not have done it alone, and I can't do this alone. We need to join forces against the bullies, the internet trolls, and the shame messengers in our real lives. We need to shut it down. To my children, Olivia and Caleb, society is going to tell you how to live your life. It is going to give you rules. Please don't wait 40 years to question those rules. Question everything now. Ask why, and then ask why again and again and again. Push people to answer those questions thoughtfully every single time. Know your value. Know what you value. Choose your rules and choose them wisely. To all of the grown-ups, it's not too late. We have a lot to unlearn, but we can do it together. It is time to start a rebellion. Together, we can cancel the patriarchy. I hope that you will join Olivia and Caleb and me